was your footballing inspiration and why? None?
None.
Did it all yourself?
Never looked at someone and thought, I want to be like that. Oh, inspiration. What I would say, the biggest influence on my career was Ronnie Moran when I went to Liverpool. He growled and barked at everyone and was a no-nonsense type of character and always kept you at it. And I responded to that.
Which manager did you learn from the most?
I mean, how lucky was I? If I'm just indulge me here, I worked for, if you go from Jocks, Bill Nicholson, who basically didn't. I was a youth player, reserve player, not much of an input there. But from Jockstein, Scottish manager, to Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, Alex Ferguson briefly as a Scottish manager,
Mexico.
So if I hadn't picked up some stuff from those guys, I must have been walking around with both my ears.
Who's the best?
An interesting one. Hugh McIlvanney. I had lunch with him several times. The legend.
Legend writer. Yeah.
I mean, and I said to him, so you've got, and he knew them all. So you've got Jockstein, you've got Bill Shankly, and you've got Alex Ferguson and Matt Busby having lunch. Who is the dominant voice? Who did he say? Who are they all listening to?
Matt Busby.
Jockstein.
Steen.
He said they'd all be hanging on every word he said. I found that fascinating.
Wow. What was your happiest football memory?
I am blessed. People, I get asked that all the time. I don't have one. I mean, at Liverpool, it was about winning the league. If you won the league, they said more about you as an individual and as a team. But then, how can you write off winning the European Cup in some glamorous city in Europe on a summer's evening? So I can't really pick from a playing side. Winning the first league when I was at Rangers at Aberdeen, because when you're a manager, it's a lonely old job when it's not going well. But when it goes well, you feel responsible. That's why it's lonely at times. You feel responsible. So when you win a league on the pitch, I'd been sent off in that game, unbelievably, but we still won the league.
Unbelievably.
And we still won the league. So being on the pitch, and I can remember the supporters, we hadn't won the league for 9 years, and the supporters coming on the pitch with men acting like children, tears in their eyes. That was a unique feeling. I have been blessed, absolutely blessed in football.
Graeme, if you could choose one midfielder to play alongside from any other era than yours, so not the era you played in.
No, I mentioned them.
Go on.
I mean, Brian Robson and I would have been a formidable partnership. I speak to Steve Perriman a fair bit now. If I'd stayed at Spurs, it could have been Steve Perriman, Glenn Hoddle, or me and Ozzy, or maybe Steve, as he says, might have to go and play full-back. So me, Ozzy and Glenn would have been a decent partnership. But I was blessed. I played with a guy called Terry McDermott. I played with great midfield players. Sammy Lee was a super player. From Craig Johnson to Ray Kennedy, Jimmy Case, all great players.
And a midfielder of today, who would you love to play alongside today, who's playing today, who eye catches every time he plays?
You just get the ball and give it to De Bruyne.
Yeah.
And on that, I can just throw out Kulichev, the one that, I'll get his name right eventually, the one at Spurs, I think, watch him.
Yeah.
I think he's De Bruyne-esque, if you like, and he's 22 years old.
And we're getting through them now. What's harder, playing, managing, or punditry?
Without a shadow of doubt, managing. You feel pretty lonely at times in management. And again, that's why I chucked it, because the good times didn't compensate for the bad times.
Yeah. And a final one, is there anything wrong in terms of using the media? Did you do that when you were a manager?
I wasn't very good at that. If I did, it wouldn't have been on a regular basis.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think I played the game. Part of my troubled time at Liverpool was I made the system at Liverpool used to be where the manager would speak to one of the 5 or 6 local journalists, and they would give the stories out to the rest of them, and they would obviously they all didn't get a fair crack at it, because the guy who was getting information would then not be as upfront with some of them. So I decided I'm going to give the same to everyone, and there was a couple of journalists at that time came after me for doing that.
You regret that? Just the way?
No, I don't regret that.
No,
because that's not how it should have been. That was. Listen, you try to be fair to people, but sometimes they don't reciprocate.
You were fair to me, I must admit, and I'll never forget the
phone
call.
Moments, Jim.
You're around on Monday night. I said, why? They flew into Glasgow. You're talking to the new player manager of Rangers. I'll never forget that moment. That was one I remember. Graeme, thanks for that. We're coming up to a break, and thanks for your contribution there, Mr. Jordan. That's the best I've heard you in years.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.